Hey everybody, Ian here, and before we start the drone industry review, I wanted to give you a little bit of an FYI. It's that time of year again. The Commercial UAV Expo is coming up, and it's in October 1st to the 3rd in Las Vegas. My favorite drone industry expo, trade show, conference, whatever you want to call it, really focused on the commercial side. Excellent set of end users from all levels, suppliers, exhibitors, breakout sessions, and this year they've continued to kind of level up on themselves. I'll be there. I'm playing a big role. I'm on the advisory board, so very excited. You can register now. Just go to expouav.com. And once again, it's in Las Vegas, and it starts on October 1st and ends on October 3rd. See you there. Welcome to CommercialDrones.fm, the podcast that explores the commercial drone industry, the people who power it, and the concepts that drive it. I'm your host, Ian Smith. All right, we're going to do something slightly different for this quarter's drone industry review. Based on some listener feedback, I'm changing the format a bit. Instead of me just rattling off as much drone industry news as I possibly can in 20 minutes, I'm going to try to dive a bit deeper and provide more focus on up to just 5 purposefully selected stories in each category of the drone industry review. The top 5 stories will be selected by me, chosen for their overall perceived interest and impact on the drone industry as a whole. And yes, this naturally is going to be slightly biased since I myself am doing all of the filtering here. And I may skip some news since I literally just can't fit it in. But I'm the one tracking all of these juicy tidbits, so I get to choose. Insert smiling purple devil emoji here. So if you want all the news and every story that I kept track of during the last quarter and just couldn't add it into the episode, go to the podcast website at commercialdrones.fm in your web browser, and it'll all be listed there in a nice, easy, digestible format. Okay. So for Q2 2018, we have a total of 10 categories with 41 different stories that I'm going to review. And since my timer is 20 total minutes for the entire review section of this episode, that gives me roughly up to 30 seconds or so to provide my analysis on the story. I'm hoping this is going to be a much more palatable episode pace produced for your listening pleasure. So please do let me know your thoughts on this new format. And if you like it, you can become an official Commercial Drones FM supporter. Go ahead and check out patreon.com/dronespodcast. That's patreon.com/dronespodcast, and join the rest of the community of 100 plus supporters in the private Facebook group talking about all things drones. So 20 minutes on the clock. Go.
Hardware.
Arion Labs announced its next-generation Skyranger R80 drone. This new platform delivers on modularity, edge computing, APIs, development opportunities, and payload capabilities. Now, this news likely was glossed over by most folks, but it's actually pretty huge. We've got an actual, still in business, professional drone company finally mimicking what's made DJI so successful, opening their systems for development. Arion has typically been focused on the ultra-mega high-end oil and gas, public safety, and military verticals, but let's see if this brings them more traction closer to the mid to lower end of the spectrum where DJI currently dominates. DJI and Microsoft have joined forces to create a software development kit connecting DJI drones with Windows 10 PCs, and Microsoft Azure Cloud Computing Service is a focal point. This opens the door for developers to build Windows apps that work with DJI drones for corporate drone projects like roof inspections. End users will be able to control drones from a PC, including streaming live data. This is obviously a huge partnership that fits into both companies' strategies perfectly, selling more devices and focusing on a secure cloud. Again with DJI. This past quarter, they released the Phantom 4 Pro version 2. It has OcuSync, greatly increasing its useful distance and range as it flies further from the operator, and it's up to 60% quieter, taking a cue from the Mavic Pro Platinum's playbook. I wonder, is this the last Phantom 4 iteration, or is it just a precursor to the rumored Phantom 5? Parrot released a new drone called Anafi, going directly after DJI's Mavic line. Anafi folds, captures 4K media, and even has a tiny 3-axis gimbal. It's $700, but is it enough to give Mavic a run for its money? Well, likely not, at least in V1, because early reviews of the drone seem to pale in comparison to the Mavic thus far. The last piece of news from the hardware section is a fun one. Researchers in Tokyo developed a drone that can change its shape as it navigates spaces. It looks like a small flying snake that can hover and slither into various shape configurations in midair at 0 ground speed. It's incredible to watch, even just for the aha moment when you realize that this clever thing could get into some very tight spaces for inspections and the like in future indoor missions.
Software.
Pix4D's flight app launched for the unique H520's ST16S transmitter, whichever drone that is. I think it's the orange one. Before I continue on the Pix4D news, a quick side note for you, Unique. Consider giving friendlier names for your products. Your target customer isn't the military. But really, Pix4D capture supporting a commercial drone from Unique is indeed actually news, because prior to this, Unique hasn't had a semblance of a developer ecosystem at all. Skywatch AI, a startup out of Israel, launched their drone safety and on-demand insurance platform to enable safer pilots to pay less for insurance. I've tried it and it's pretty cool. Their app grabs your past flight logs and assigns you a safety score. The higher your score, the higher your insurance discount. So there's lots of activity happening in the drone insurance sector. In the future, look for news from them, among others like droneinsurance.com. Drone Deploy put a stake in the ground by announcing that they're the largest drone data platform in the world, with its users mapping over 30 million acres of the planet over the past few years. They released one of their semi-annual reports providing detailed metrics and trends from tens of thousands of users. Investors must have noticed as well, because the company also announced the closure of a $25 million Series C round. Google's Project Wing and Air Maps unmanned traffic management systems successfully synced and deconflicted flight plans within the same airspace using an open-source, distributed peer-to-peer system to perform a multitude of missions. This shows us a few things. 1, there may not be one UTM system to rule them all. 2, because of that, UTM systems should be able to talk to each other to deconflict air traffic. And 3, Google has even more skin in the drone game now.
Regulations and safety.
A commercial drone group representing Project Wing and other companies wants the FAA to regulate drone hobbyists. The Commercial Drone Alliance wants U.S. lawmakers to revoke a provision which exempt hobbyist drone users from FAA safety regulations as long as they follow certain safety rules established by drone groups. Instead, the alliance wants all operators to fall under FAA standards. This seemingly insignificant story is actually generating some heated debate amongst hobbyist and commercial circles. France is considering new drone requirements. The proposed rules would require certain pilots to identify their drones using an electronic identification system. The rule, which could take effect as early as July, would only apply to UAVs weighing more than 1.8 pounds. This means drones such as the DJI Mavic Pro, Spark, and Air would be exempt. The French Federation of Model Airplanes recently published a draft outlining the proposed requirements, and once again, in this regard, are ahead of the US. A Minneapolis-based utility received FAA approval to fly drones beyond the pilot's visual line of sight. Xcel Energy Inc. plans to use the waiver to survey transmission lines near Denver. It's the first utility in the country to receive a BVLOS type of approval, and that's pretty good progress. Monday, April 30th was an exciting day for the drone industry in the United States. That's when the FAA began the first wave of the nationwide rollout of its LANC, or Low Altitude Airspace Notification Capability System. This signifies more open airspace for more drone flights and a critical building block for an unmanned traffic management system. The FAA finally announced the 10 winners of the UAS Integration Pilot Program. Of note, Amazon and DJI were not included, but Apple was. I noticed a few interesting tidbits. Flirty, the drone delivery company, is involved with 4 different applications that were selected, and AirMap was chosen as the primary UTM partner for 6 different selected applications. Is this entirely fair? I mean, it seems that by being selected, these 2 companies were able to corner their respective markets with the ability to legally operate beyond the scope of some of their competitors. Or maybe it's just good planning on their part. We'll have to see if they remain the winners of their domains and if the FAA unknowingly played a much bigger role in the future of the drone industry than they originally intended. In summary, of the selected applications, there were 6 beyond visual line of sight initiatives, 4 drone delivery initiatives, 4 night flying initiatives, 2 overflight initiatives, and 1 test site was involved.
Shakeups, funding, and mergers and acquisitions.
There was quite a bit of funding that happened this past quarter, but I'm only going to highlight one of them. Kitty Hawk, a kind of cult-loved flight logging and operations platform, got a $5 million Series A from Boeing's Horizon X fund. They also teamed up with Jeppesen, another Boeing company, for their Lance capability. We'll move on to shakeups because there's a few that I want to really highlight. The first is absolutely ridiculous, and I really want to know the outcome of this, but a lawsuit has accused the drone manufacturer AeroVironment of covering up an allegation that one of its employees carried an explosive-laden drone on a commercial flight. Yes, a drone with actual explosives on it. There's nothing conclusive on this yet, but I'm following it intently. If anyone knows any information, please let me know. The next one up is Intel's CEO Brian Krzanich resigned from the company as the CEO due to having a consensual relationship with an employee that came up many years after it was actually happening. So how is this going to affect their drone division? I mean, Krzanich was known as being extremely pro-drone from all the different employees at Intel I've talked to and just external opinions. So we'll see what happens after that kind of dust settles over there in Santa Clara. And the last shakeup that we'll talk about is Facebook shutting down its Aquila internet beaming drone project. This is relevant because after many failed takeoffs and landings, they actually pulled the plug on this. And what's noteworthy here is that Google's Project Loon, which is a different type of aircraft, a very high altitude balloon, is marching on. They're continuing with that to kind of provide internet to impoverished places and presumably gather tons of user data so they can put ads in front of their faces. This episode of Commercial Drones FM is brought to you by FLIR. Pretty much everyone in the commercial drone world knows about FLIR's thermal imaging technologies and may even have a basic understanding of how their sensors work. At Commercial Drones FM, we think this technology is deserving of the spotlight to reveal some of the incredible things thermal imaging drones can accomplish. Drones equipped with thermal imagers offer a way to see the world from a different perspective, which can help identify infrastructure problems, locate missing people, and increase safety and efficiency across a variety of industries. The value of thermal imaging for commercial drone operations is undeniable. So I want to use this podcast as a platform to dive deep into the world of heat and seek out the best practices and the unique use cases that make thermal imaging sensors the most drone-ready payload for commercial drone applications right next to RGB cameras. So join us over the coming months as we invite FLIR and their customers into our studio to discuss the technical and practical uses of their groundbreaking efforts in aerial thermal imagery. This episode of Commercial Drones FM is brought to you by Deveron UAS. Deveron UAS offers enterprise drone services for farmland across North America. I recently spoke with Bonduelle, one of Deveron's largest customers.
So my name is Jennifer Thompson. I work for Bonduelle America's Long Life. We're a vegetable processor. Bonduelle is a very large company with 54 plants in the world. Here in North America, we have 11 plants doing frozen and canned vegetables.
So naturally, I wanted to know, how is Deveron helping one of the largest vegetable processors in the world by using drone technology?
So we use Deveron to service and support our precision agricultural needs. For us, it's not easy to have our own or fly our own drones to gather crop data. So Deveron is ready and available to work for us when needed. We fly thousands of acres, and managing those acres, it just works very easily with them in our fast-paced growing season. They're not just providing data, they're helping to solve issues and find solutions.
Well, that's very important work, but what's your favorite crop to eat?
My favorite crop to eat is sweet corn. I will eat sweet corn 365 days of the year.
I'm not sure if I've ever eaten sweet corn yet that was monitored by drone. To learn more, visit deveronuas.com/dronesfm and see for yourself how Deveron is leading collaboration in agriculture with drones. That's deveronuas.com/dronesfm. Okay, back to the show. flying cars / eVTOL aircraft. Kitty Hawk finally showed off the final version of Flyer, its inaugural flying car. If you'll remember, the Larry Page-backed Kitty Hawk previously posted videos of its prototype version last year, which looked more like a flying inflatable motorcycle. Before launch, I was given a sneak peek in their warehouse at the pre-production final version, which has a more traditional enclosed cockpit, a sleeker-looking, more billionaire-friendly fuselage, and they upgraded the propulsion system to 10 motors and propellers. The second Uber Elevate conference happened, and it was an absolute doozy. It's definitely worth paying attention to because it's literally the only conference I know of that's hyper-focused on our eVTOL future. In summary, there were new aircraft concepts revealed from Uber, Embraer, and Pipistrel. A new partnership with Caram was announced to develop VTOL aircraft for Uber Air. There's a new battery collaboration with E1 Moly to develop state-of-the-art battery packs needed for eVTOL flight. There's also a new Space Act, which Uber is collaborating on with NASA, and a research agreement with the US Army. And Uber made an open call to select the first international city to launch Uber Air. Who will it be?
Entertainment drones.
A Chinese drone manufacturer broke the Guinness World Record for most drones flown simultaneously. Ehang deployed 1,374 drones during a 13-minute light show above the Chinese city of Xi'an. The drones flew in 16 different formations, including a Buddha and a camel. Intel previously held the record after flying 1,218 drones during the opening ceremony of the Pyeongchang 2018 Olympic Winter Games in February. But get this, Intel will again go for the world record later this summer. I think this is just going to keep stacking on top of each other. In other news, 2 YouTubers built a drone out of pizza and flew it using FPV. Time Magazine's drone cover of hundreds of drones mimicking the Time Magazine cover is stunning and showcases incredibly thoughtful design. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. In its essence, it was a 100-meter high Time Magazine cover created outdoors by almost 1,000 Intel Shooting Star drones. And of course, all of that was photographed by a drone and then made into the Time cover.
Public safety and search and rescue.
DJI released findings that they identified a successful 65 drone rescues in a span of 12 months. Previous podcast guest Romeo Dersher, DJI's Director of Education, no doubt played a large role in compiling this statistic. It's a solid signal which shows that drones continue to do good. And speaking of Romeo, a Swiss person, we've got some news out of Switzerland that I'm sure all the citizens of will be proud. According to Swiss legal experts, it's now okay to shoot down drones if they invade your privacy. Now we just need a solid definition of privacy invasion. And for the marquee story of this section, criminals used a swarm of drones to disrupt a hostage rescue operation last year, according to a top FBI official. Joseph Maisel, the FBI's Operational Technology Law Unit chief, told attendees of the AUVSI drone conference that the criminals purposefully flew several small drones to obstruct a rescue team's view of the situation. The drone pilots attempted high-speed, low passes at the agents in the observation post to flush them out, Maisel continued. They were then blind, which caused the agents to lose sight of the attacker. Okay, so I'd be lying if I didn't say that I wanted to see this recreated in real life because it sounds like straight science fiction. But unfortunately, this just goes to show that for so many of the positive drone stories that are released, there are some questionable ones as well. General news. News is out that the number of patents filed for drone technology rose to a high of 5,300 in FY 2016 to 17, compared to just 1,200 patents in the year prior. The 400% increase between financial years was mainly attributed to a wave of patent filings in China, but we must also not forget the slew of Amazon and Walmart patents. Drones are helping Britain's main railway operator create a map of trees that threaten nearby train tracks. Network Rail used aerial views from drones to create a map of 10 million trees that fall within 60 meters of its tracks in England, Scotland, and Wales. The goal is to keep branches and trees off the rail lines. This sounds really interesting and similar to something I did at Delaire back in the day with our vegetation encroachment algorithm that essentially has a long-range fixed-wing drone fly across the corridor of a linear infrastructure like train tracks, make photogrammetric maps, 3D models with point clouds, and potentially grab some LiDAR data as well. Then all you have to do is kind of apply an algorithm to that and establish thresholds between the actual asset, the train track or the power line. Very cool to see this news and see this happening in the wild. University of Leeds researchers developed drone technology that can fix potholes in the road. The researchers created image recognition algorithms that can detect potholes and installed them on drone cameras. After a pothole is detected, a drone uses an asphalt 3D printer to patch up the hole. This technology could fix potholes before they ever grow larger. This is definitely one of my favorite drone use cases that I've heard in quite some time, so I'm very much looking forward to this, and I know some people in certain cities will have recommendations for these researchers to deploy their technology and help fix these terrible roads in parts of the United States. And that's it. Q2 2018 of the drone industry is in the books. I hope you liked the episode and the new format. Definitely let me know what you thought of it. Tweet at me at dronespodcast or facebook.com/dronespodcast. Let me know. I'm really interested in your feedback. And once again, if you wanted that full data dump of all the headlines and the things that I wasn't able to get to in this episode, just go to the website commercialdrones.fm and then check out the posting for this episode, and then I'll link to it in there. If you have any other questions, definitely reach out to me. It's just ian@commercialdrones.fm. Really hope to hear from you guys. Thanks again for listening, and I'll be back for the next one. Cheers.